Let's do this thing. Hi, my name is Isabel, and I'm a singer-songwriter with a very unique story because my left vocal cord is paralyzed, fully and permanently paralyzed, and has been for 11 years now. And I'm kind of embarking on the professional, hopefully, aspect of my career. And to my core, I am a genuine and honest and authentic person. That's just who I am. Never mean. But I'm not good at lying about who I am or what I believe in, which is not a bad thing, probably. But fortunately or unfortunately, my vocal cord is a huge part of my story in life in general, but especially as an artist, because it's made me who I am. And when I was newly diagnosed and going through surgeries, I didn't have anybody that I could look up to. I couldn't find anyone who had talked about this, who had gone through something similar. And I want to be that voice for anybody who's going through or has a voice disorder, whether that be vocal cord paralysis or something else, and is looking for guidance or just to feel a little less alone. You're not alone. I've been through it too. So yeah, this is my story. I'm 25 and I was diagnosed when I was 19, but I started having vocal cord issues when I was 14. It was like the summer before freshman year of high school, yeah. And I was sitting in my dining room and I was singing Titanium by Sia and David Guetta. It's a great song. And all of a sudden my voice cracked. Kind of weird. That's odd. And before that, by the way, I had done theater for many years. I had been in choir at school and at church. I loved to sing. I was singing as soon as I could talk. I was humming before I could talk. My grandmother, who passed recently, we were very close. She documented in one of her journals that I was humming along to the radio when I was 13 months old. So I've always just been somebody who music is my other half. It's how I express myself. It's my creative outlet. But when I was 14, I had this problem one day, and I thought, oh, it's just puberty, your voice changes. But from that day on, my voice got progressively worse to the point where I couldn't sing anymore. And my speaking voice, kids made fun of me. Because they were like, oh, are you a chronic smoker? Like, yeah, I'm a smoker. Sure. I smoke 5 packs a day. That's what I've done with my 15 years of life. Which is, they weren't saying it like a genuine, like, oh, are you a smoker? They were saying it like, oh, you sound awful. How can we make fun of you? Because I didn't sound right. And anybody who has vocal cord issues knows, like, it impacts your self-esteem. And you sound really different. And, I sounded hoarse. I couldn't project. My voice would frequently give out on me. At the end of the day, I would have like no voice left most days. And I wasn't singing. I didn't sing for 5 years. And I really think I kind of lost a part of myself in that time. But when I was 19, I'd come back home because it was my freshman year of college and the pandemic hit. We were all back home, and because it was 2020. And it was to the point, it had gotten so bad that I was like, I have to go see somebody. And the reason why, because people ask me, why didn't you see somebody sooner? I had severe medical anxiety as a kid. I've gotten over a lot of it, but also in case you're wondering, if you notice my left eye is like red, it looks like it's bruised. I had a minor eye procedure earlier this week, and so it looks a lot better than it did. But in case you're wondering what that is, when you go see an ENT, which is ear, nose, and throat doctor, which is who you see for vocal cord issues, they put a scope up your nose and down your throat. It's not comfortable to look at your vocal cords, and I didn't want to do that. I was like, that sounds like my worst nightmare. But I got to the point, like I said, where I hated life because I didn't sound good. It had been years of not singing. It just got to me, and I was like, screw it. So I went to this ENT doctor, and I had to go by myself because it was, at this point, I've been going to all my doctor's appointments alone since I turned 18. I feel like that's the opposite of what most people in Gen Z say, but like as soon as I was 18, I was like, yeah, I can get all my appointments by myself. Don't know why I was so excited about that, which I still do, but I would have loved like my mom or dad to go with me to this because my best friend at the time, she drove me, and was sitting, I'll never forget this moment or this day, but I was sitting in the chair waiting for her, bracing myself to have a camera up my nose. And I saw on the wall directly opposite of me, there was this poster that said, have vocal cord paralysis. And they were looking for people to join a study. And I remember thinking, God, that's a thing? Thank God I don't have that. Because I had convinced myself I had like polyps or nodes. Nothing serious. I think I didn't want it to be anything serious. She came in, super nice, does the scope. It was awful, but you know, they like numb your nose so it doesn't hurt or anything, but it's just very uncomfortable. And it only takes like a minute or two. And then she goes, okay, so your left vocal cord is paralyzed. And I laughed and I said, no, no, I have nodes. She goes, no, your voice is way too damaged for it to just be nodes. And like, what? And she's like, look, I'll show you. And I was like, I really don't want to see. She made me look at my vocal cords, which I have seen my vocal cords now way more times than I ever thought I would in my life. It gets like, you get a little less horrified each time, but it's this weirdest thing in the world. And she shows me, and sure enough, the left one didn't move. And likely hadn't moved in 5 years. And the worst part, I think, of that day was she told me, you know, if you had come in, like right when you started having issues, we would have been able to reverse it, probably. I wish you had told me that. I really wish I didn't know that. But fully functioning vocal cords vibrate together. So that's how most people's work. They vibrate together. That's how you produce sound. But when one of them doesn't move, there's a gap in between them. And so the right one was constantly reaching across, trying to connect the left one, but the left one didn't move. And so that's when my voice was hoarse and airy. And like, that's why I couldn't sing. And so she kind of was going through my options with me. And so we decided that I was going to try an injection first. Because, so like, I'll explain. Because I've had 4 surgeries in total. What the injection does, the material lasts 3 months. And they inject your vocal cord and it plumps it up so that the vocal cords can vibrate together again. But like I said, it's only 3 months. It's a temporary thing. And they usually do that before they do what they call a thyroplasty, which is a kind of surgery where they put an implant in your vocal cord. They do the injection before to see if it will help at all. So a month later, I got the injection. It was, oh my God, when I spoke, I'll put some videos if I can find them. Speaking again for the first time, I sounded like a prepubescent boy. It was very entertaining. But it was good, and it kept getting better, and I was like, this is great. And so it was a good outcome because my voice was stronger and I could actually project. And at this point, wasn't trying singing yet, but still my speaking voice was great. So that lasted 3 months, and then December of 2020, I had my first thyroplasty. This one was supposed to last for like 15 years. The injection, I had them put me asleep in the OR because I can do them awake, and I was like, nope, if you're going to inject a needle in my neck, I want to be asleep for it. But the thyroplasty, you have to be awake. I didn't know this. She did not. By the way, she knew I had like intense anxiety and intense medical anxiety. So day of the surgery, it's like 6 a.m. and she comes in and she's like, all right, how are you feeling? And I'm like, they just gave me the drugs, like the anxiety drugs, but I'm feeling a little better. She goes, okay, so quick thing, you're going to be awake for half of it. And I went, what? She goes, yeah, we're going to wake you up midway through. I'm like, why? Why would you do that? She said, well, we need you to talk to make sure the implant fits correctly. I'm like, and you're telling me this now? And then the drugs kicked in and I was like, yeah, whatever. So we go back and I remember them waking me up and I remember being like, what the hell's happening? And thank God they covered my eyes with a cloth so I couldn't see anything. And they had me talk and they were adjusting the implant and I couldn't feel any pain, but I could feel pressure and I could feel things moving around. I didn't like it. And then they finished. I remember them stitching me up. Again, awake for all this, not in pain, but I could feel things and I was pretty aware of what was happening. And I remember they asked me, like, okay, do you think you can get up off of the OR bed so we can put you on the other bed and wheel you out here? And I'm thinking, and I wasn't allowed to talk at this point, I'm thinking, you just cut my neck open, put some shit in there while I was awake, and you're asking me to get up. No! And so I just went, they were like, okay. I'm like, oh my God. What do people actually get? Okay, whatever. I'm like, I don't want to see anything in the OR. I'm like, keep my eyes covered up. I have to get up. I would probably have to look at things. I'm like, also I feel like jelly. I'm like, this is not going to happen. Wheeled me out of there. So this surgeon, she's great. She's wonderful. The way she does these kinds of procedures is every surgeon has different training. But the way she has her patients kind of heal is I was not allowed to speak at all for 5 days. So I went home, didn't talk, and when I finally started speaking again, it was kind of similar to when I had the injection. And then it took like a few weeks for my voice to kind of settle in, but it was better. I could speak normally. I didn't sound like a chronic smoker. It was amazing. It was literally like a whole new world for me. I'm like, oh my God. But I didn't sing right away. And I actually didn't start singing until almost 2 years later, in September of 2022. Because you have to realize when you lose your voice for so long and then you get it back, it's really terrifying. Because I didn't know if I'd actually be able to sing. Because I had a great voice before my vocal cord got paralyzed. I had an amazing voice. I didn't know if it'd be the same. And I was terrified. I was like, part of me didn't really want to find out. And like, I'm not going to tell the whole story of that because it'll be a whole other video. But that fall, I started teaching myself guitar. Started writing songs again, which I had done when I was younger. Started singing again. Started working with a voice coach who actually ended up being the worst. But it was going well. It was going well. I would start performing. Like, I did open mics. I hadn't performed in years. I had so much performance anxiety going back to performing. Still do. I'm still working through that. But it was good. It was like this whole new thing for me. And like I said, this implant was supposed to last like 10 to 15 years. And then February of 2024, I was on the phone with my best friend Liz. She lives in Minnesota, so we talk on the phone a lot. So we know each other's voices very well. And I was like clearing my throat and I was like, sorry, allergies have been getting to me. Well, it's winter. My voice sounds a little funky. And she was quiet for a moment. She goes, you've been saying that for a few months. Do you think something might have happened to your vocal cord? And I was like, it's like to the implant, and I was like, shit. I really hope not. So my surgeon had moved out of state, which sucked. But I went to her replacement at the same hospital. This bitch was crazy, okay? Literally the worst doctor I've ever seen. So I get to the office and you have to like sign all the forms and stuff. And she had this form that all her patients had to sign that was saying she doesn't do her scopes any sort of like numbing stuff. Like she just shoves it up there. And I was like, okay, I'm already here. How bad can it be without the numbing stuff? Spoiler alert, real bad. So I signed the paper. Go back. She was very cold. And the way she had it, normally when you do a scope, the normal way, the sane way, you sit there and you don't have to move at all. You just sit, camera goes up your nose, and they ask you to talk, make some noises, things like that, while they're making the video, recording and everything, and trying to see, like they have you say like certain sounds or words at certain pitches to see where your vocal cords are vibrating. But the way she did it was she had you lean forward and then she had her assistants hold you in place and hold your head in place so you couldn't move, and then she would do the scope. So I'm like panicking. I'm like, what the hell? It did hurt. It's not supposed to. And it was awful. And then afterwards she tells me, so she doesn't scope, and she goes, your implant is missing. I said, I'm sorry. What? She goes, it's gone. I'm like, what do you mean it's gone? And the implant I had, it was a material called Gore-Tex. It's a pretty common one they use. And it's a softer material. So it's like layered into the vocal cord. And she told me it was gone. And I'm like, where the hell did it go? She goes, oh, it could be anywhere in your body. I'm like, so I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. She's like, yeah, you need to do a CT scan. She's like, it could even be in your lungs. I'm like, my lungs? I'm like, what is it? Like, I'm like crying at this point. She's like, yeah, we do find it. We're going to put a new one in. It's a 3-hour-long surgery. You have to be awake the whole time. What I tell my patients to do is you should prepare by laying still for 3 hours and meditating. I'm like, what the hell? I'm thinking, this is just the most bizarre experience. And she was so, I told her, I was like, I have a lot of anxiety. You're going to need to give me a lot of drugs. She goes, yeah, whatever. I'm like, who is this woman? So I leave. I was supposed to actually, I was finishing up I think it was a junior in college at this time, finishing up my degree. I was supposed to go to class. Went home crying because I was like, what the hell? Called Liz on the way. Told her what happened. She goes, you need to get a second opinion because that bitch is crazy. And she's like, that's just what? I'm like, okay. She's like, Isabel, seriously. For some reason, my camera just stopped the video, decided I was meant to be done talking. So Liz is like, get a second opinion. I'm so glad you told me to do that. I'm so glad I listened to her. So I ended up going to a different hospital in Chicago. They have a special like voice clinic. And I saw like the head, I think he's one of the head surgeons there. I love this man. He's the best. He's so kind. He's so patient. So I go see him. He was way better than the other bitch. By the way, I left a review. I left a very, very specific review because I wanted that hospital to fire her. I'm like, nobody should be going to this woman. Like, she's crazy. I don't like that word. Okay, she's not crazy, but like, she was horrible. So I told, I don't know if I want to use my surgeon's real name, so I'll call him Dr. Smith. I told Dr. Smith, I said, before you do the scope, I want to tell you I saw, my past, I told him the whole history, and I said, I saw my past surgeon's replacement, and she told me the implant was missing, and he went, what? And I said, yeah. And she wanted me to do CT scan. He goes, did you do it? And I was like, no, that's why I'm here. He's like, okay. So he does a scope the normal way. It was actually probably one of the best scopes I've ever done. He's been doing it for such a long time. He's so good at it. He's just so calm. I love him so much. Him and his whole team. And so he does a scope, and he finishes. He shows me the video. He's like, it's right there. And he's like, the implant's still there. He's like, it just moved. I'm like, you're telling me that this quack at the other hospital didn't even see, and also when he showed me the video, I'm like, oh yeah, obviously there's something there. She didn't even see it, and she thought it was loose somewhere in my body. He told me, he goes, by the way, it wouldn't go into your lungs. Like, that's not physically possible. And I was like, yeah, she's interested. He was so disturbed by that woman. So anyway, sometimes I still have to. He was so disturbed by that woman. Thank God. And so he said, yeah, it's still there, but it moved. And that's why you're not having the same results you had before. So, we didn't want to rush into surgery. So I started voice therapy with the amazing voice therapist there, who's incredible. We'll call her Emily, because again, I don't want to use people's real names. It was good. It helped me. I was able to sing a little better, speak a little better, but it still wasn't the results that I wanted. And so then so this was 2024. So October of 2024, I had another injection, also in the OR. So it was a third procedure /surgery, good Lord, that I'd had thus far. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It was probably even better because the implant was there still. But I had great results. I could sing really well. I could speak really well. And so he's like, okay. So that leaves us with like, we gotta kind of talk about like permanent options now. And what we ended up doing was called revision thyroplasty. The surgery was 2.5 hours long. I was awake the whole time. I trusted him and his team completely. But I was awake. And what they did was they took out the old implant fully. They were able to take all of it out, which was great. And they put the new one in. And what he did was he did a material called Celastic. So it's a harder material. and it kind of fits into the vocal cord like a lock and key. And that lasts forever. So this was last July of 2025. It was traumatic. And they did an amazing job. It's nothing on them. It's just that surgery is inherently traumatic. And most people, by the way, forget. But I remembered everything. Almost everything from the entire surgery. My theory is that when I get really anxious, which is quite often, I black out. Like when I get really, really anxious, because my brain was like, let me protect you from whatever crazy event you just endured, even if it's like going to a party and I don't know anybody. My brain's like, let me protect you. You remember none of this. And then it failed to protect me because I was high on all these drugs, like fentanyl and everything, and Versed, because they give them to you so you don't feel anything and so you don't panic, which is like, God bless. But I was high on these drugs and I was calm, well, as calm as you can be for laying in an OR with your throat open as people move stuff in it. But yeah, I could feel the pressure. So my surgeon is amazing. He played Taylor Swift for me the whole time, so I'm a huge Swiftie, have been since I was 9. So that'll keep me calm. And the first implant they put in there, it didn't fit. It was too big, and it caused what is called a vocal spasm, aka the worst thing I've ever experienced. Worse than my IUD insertion. So, like girlies, you know, that's saying a lot. It kind of like you feel like you can't breathe, and like you're choking and you can't speak, and you're just like, and I couldn't see because I had asked them, you know, please, I don't want to see a damn thing because I will panic. So they put a cloth over my eyes, whatever. But I'm panicking because this implant didn't fit, and his residents and his whole team were like, it's okay. They're like, have their hands on me, which is good because I like felt like, okay, I'm not alone. They're like, it's okay. Like it's a vocal spasm. It's really scary, but it's gonna stop in a second. And they were so kind about it. But it was so traumatic, and I'm actually doing EMDR therapy to work through some of that right now. But then the second implant he carved, because he carves it by hand, fit perfectly. That's what's curling in my throat, and that's what this scar is from. It was worth it. It was worth it. The whole time I was laying there, I was thinking to myself, if I come out of this with a voice, I will never stop singing. And I'll never stop performing, even though it terrifies me. Because it does. I'm worried people won't like my voice, because when you have this many voice changes, it's like almost having like voice dysphoria, where I don't really know what I sound like. I don't know if I sound good. I don't know. I have to rely on other people because my voice has changed so much. It's just a very weird thing to go through. But anyway, so I'm like almost fully, I think now I'm fully recovered. I had my last appointment with him ever, set for life, barring any other changes. But the first few months after surgery were really tough. So the thing that was different, by the way, about Dr. Smith's procedure and like training and like what he has patients do versus the first surgeon I saw, not that one's better or worse, just very different training, as he'd explained to me. I started talking the same day. So I had to be overnight in hospital, but I started speaking. And I mean, granted, I sounded like, I don't even know, sounded like some sort of creature because my voice was so rough. But not like a lot of speaking, not yelling, no whispering, just like normal amounts, regular volume. And then I think like 2 or 3 weeks later, I finally started singing again. And let me just say, this is the best outcome I could have ever hoped for. I have like the widest range I've ever had. I can hit high notes I've never been able to hit, even pre-vocal cord paralysis. That's why I'm like, I would do that surgery again and again if it meant that I could sing. Because I don't know how to put into words how agonizing it is to physically not be able to do what you love. And I'm sure there are people out there who can relate to that in many capacities. And then to get it back and then to lose it again. And so now that it's back, hopefully for life, I'm just trying to sing whenever and wherever I can. Put my music on the internet, which is terrifying because life's too short. I didn't go through that hell twice just to not use my voice. But that's like kind of like the medical gist of my story. Again, if there are people who watch this anybody who has questions, or if there are people who want advice, non-medical advice, but just like advice and like how to get through these things, and like, I'm here. Like I said, I want to be that for people. I think that we can be really lonely through a lot of things in life, but we don't have to be. And I want to make the world a little less lonely, because it's no fun to do everything alone, especially the hard stuff. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. So this YouTube channel now, I'm going to try to stick with it. I'm going to keep posting covers and original songs and everything. Again, because life is too short to not take the risks and not do what terrifies you. But yeah, I guess some other really boring facts about me if you want to know. Like I said, I'm 25. I'm a Pisces. I live in Chicago, born and raised here, hoping to move. Graduated college finally last summer. I graduated summa cum laude from DePaul University, which was a huge accomplishment for me, because I also had my college story like a whole other thing. I transferred twice and took 2 gap years, which is why I graduated late. So I'm still looking for a full-time job, because you have to have money to like move out of your hometown and live your life. But it's a really, really tough time to be a human in the world. So that there's also that. What other facts? I have synesthesia, so I can see colors, actually see, hear, and taste. So, well, with sound, smell, and taste, I see colors. Have like my whole life. Didn't realize it was like actually I figured out what it was when I watched Ratatouille for the first time when I was like 9 or something, and I was like, I have that. My dad has it too, and my best friend Liz has it. Hers is a little different. Hers is cooler. She can like taste sounds. So like my voice to her tastes like rose petals, which makes me so happy. So she's a very unique kind. But yeah, I have synesthesia. It definitely impacts my music. Oh, in terms of the music I make, hello. I feel like I could write for a lot of genres. Writing is kind of where I shine. It's my main thing. I actually published a book of poetry too last year, which is pretty cool. You know, again, my writing is more fluid genre-wise, but in terms of the melodies I create and when I sing, I tend to do like more alternative and pop. But I'm influenced by so many things. I mean, I grew up listening to everything from U2 to Coldplay to Aretha Franklin to just like Counting Crows and just like totally random. Oh my god, linking Sheryl Crow, loved her. The Police, Al Green. Like, I just grew up even as a kid listening to so many different kinds of music. So I feel like the music I create is very diverse in terms of like what it can sound like and what it does sound like. But if I had to say like genre-wise, I guess probably alternative or pop, but I don't really know. I'm hoping to make some demos soon and hopefully release some actual music soon. So some things are in the works on that. What else? I rode horses for 10 years. That was a big part of my life. Super random. Haven't ridden in consistently in like 6 years. That's another story, because I had a really traumatic fall and almost broke my hip, and again, story for another time. I've started 2 podcasts. They haven't gone very far. I have ADHD, so I'm so good at like starting stuff and then it never goes anywhere. To be fair, my second podcast, the one I currently like I'm still doing, even though I haven't made an episode in months, was interrupted because of my grandma passing. So maybe I'll get back to that. I don't know, it's a lot of work. Like, it's fun, but because I'm producing a podcast for somebody else too, so it's like but I think that's it. There's probably other things that will come up. But yeah, I think I loved vlogging. When I was 8, when we went to France in 2009, I was 8 years old. I was vlogging that entire trip. So I feel like, you know, OG vlogger here. But I never posted any of the things I've made. So I don't know, maybe if, again, like, I think a lot of time, and probably other people can relate to this too, is like what stops me is fear of what other people will think. And it's like, okay, but then I'm living for other people, and that's dumb because I don't want to look back on my life and be like, I lived it for everybody else but myself. And so maybe I'll just start making more content because it's fun, because I want to do it. Like, screw it. Who cares? Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna shut up now because this video is gonna be really fucking long. But yeah, I'm Isabel, and if you want to follow along on my journey, singing and performing again, terrifying, as a singer-songwriter who has vocal cord paralysis, then subscribe or whatever. And yeah, I love when YouTubers say this. I'll see you next time.